Well, hello my friends, Furtado here. I have very little time, as probably some of you know, but I'm home for 2 days, and these 2 days I'm not sure exactly how much I'm going to be able to do. But I'm going to break this up into sequences that make sense for those of you that want to follow along. From unpacking a VFD, where I purchased it from, what kind of a price you're looking at, VFD motor combination, to the installation. And here are the 3 major things that I'm going to be tackling. Going to install the VFD, which is a 1.5 horse motor with a matched 2 horsepower VFD drive. And it's going to be mounted as a brand new installation, like there was nothing existing to the lathe, on the Delta, the original Delta stand that my Delta lathe came on, which is this one right here. I want to use that other stand because, number one, the motor is housed in a cabinet, and I want to set up a rack for the majority of my tools that are in the back, which get a little bit of the overspray when I'm finishing my pieces, so I get a little bit of gunk. It cleans up. It doesn't take away from the tool, but it doesn't look good. So by putting my tools underneath the lathe stand, which I always loved that feature. Every time I saw somebody with an old lathe that had the stand, the tool racks right on the bottom, I thought it was a nice touch. And they come up at a nice angle, easy touch, and they don't get in the way of the turning. So I'll be doing that. So I will be showing you the making of a stand for it, the tool stand, the installation of the VFD drive, and the final mounting of the lathe. Like I said, I will not be showing the Atlas of just a switch over. The reason why I'm redoing this one, it's because recently I upgraded my electric in my shop, which is not 100%. But I brought a panel into the shop, so therefore it gives me ample power. I'm going to be doing that. That might be a different video. Branching out from the panel, bringing power to the back of the lathe with 220, which I require for this particular installation, and doing maybe branch offs in the shop for at least dedicated circuits for different tools. Let's get started. And I have this box, and you know, I'm not going to be picking, because this box has been in my possession for 7 weeks. I ordered and I went to California on the new job. So therefore, I haven't even seen what this package looks like. I know my wife had received it. The box might be a little bit beaten up in the sense of how they packed it. I don't think it was the greatest of packing. But you know, their prices, the price I got this from, and I will be sure to show a little bit of a screen capture on this video of the actual website. So if you guys need something, it's worthy to look at. So in the box, the contents, I mean, they packed it up with just plastic, and the contents are the Tico drive. It's L510-202H1U. But here's the VFD. It's deeper than I thought it was. So I will be showing you how to wire both the power coming into this and the distribution of the power going back out of this, and possibly the hookups to the override speedometer, tachometer, variable speed controller, so I'm not using these buttons specifically. I will override this. Get my forward and reverse functions from a separate switch, again, rather than through the parameters on this. And we'll take it a little bit into detail on what's there. So here's the VFD. It does come with a booklet with some instructions and all the parameters that you need. And I'm going to put this box down so I can handle this motor. Like I said, I'm not impressed by the packing, but things seem to be okay. Well, the motor is very well protected in its box. So I have a little bit of prep work to do. I gotta clean out all this wood that I got on this stand, clear this up, and so I can get started. See you in a bit. Okay, I've kind of cleaned up my base, taken out my old motor down. I want to bring something up. For those of you who don't want to go this route of converting the motor and put a VFD, but if you are stuck with a lathe that only goes down to 600 RPMs or so, this might be an option. You can make a countershaft, or you can buy a countershaft pre-made. On this particular case, I have just a couple of bearings with a shaft, and I got two pulleys over here. This one would be the same size as the motor pulley, and this one would be double the size. So that way, if you have a configuration where you're running on this one, it's a 1-to-1, and if you bring it up to this one, it reduces your speed to half of its motor speed, if that's the difference you have on the two. And of course on this end I had the original pulleys that went up to the lathe, the 4-step pulleys. So nothing changes on your headstock, nothing changes on your configuration of pulleys, of the original speed of the motor, if you have that option. You might not have it with the Reeves drive pulley, but it depends on where your motor is mounted. But if you can fit something like this between your motor and your headstock, this is one way that you can drop down your speed and actually increase torque at the low end speeds to your lathe. So again, I'm not suggesting that you do something exactly like what I got here, but there's always a way that you can configure something to your own situation of what you can fit in there. And if you have any questions, or send me some pictures on an email, or what your situation is, can you do it or not, and I look at it, I could probably tell you, yeah, you can do it this way, can probably do a little diagram for you, and it would be up to you to take it whichever way you could. So on the original Atlas, I had this running between the motor, like what I'm describing. The motor stood in its original position, the lathe was way up. Higher than that, I was able to fit this exactly in the stand. That's why these even angles, because that was the angle of my stand on how I mounted it up. So that was from my particular situation. And this worked out beautiful. Before I got the VFD, I was able to turn larger pieces at a much safer speed because I was reducing my lathe automatically to 320, 340 RPMs with just this 2-pulley system in between the motor and this to the headstock. I will draw up diagrams based on what you're looking for or what you need, if you so desire for me to do so. So the motor, the stand right now is completely empty. No motor in there. This motor is going to go in the same location. I'm not saying that this, by doing this, is going to be a top-notch lathe. It is the lathe that it is. I feel that it's a quality lathe. It's got decent weight. But no, it's never going to be a one-way. It's never going to be a robust. It's never going to be, but it will be a really nice delta. Much better. Much, much, much better than what it came as from factory. And that's what we're looking for. I feel with this upgrade, it's a motor that, it's a lathe that will do everything that I want it to do. I already have the capacity and to turn larger pieces because I have done riser blocks. If you want to see how that's done, I have a couple of videos that I show in the past of the riser blocks. It's one of the best upgrades I have done for this. As long as you have the capacity, the motor, the strength, and I don't mean these features, but you have, even if it's a single speed motor, but you have a motor that's big enough that you're going to be able to handle 16, 20-inch pieces on your lathe without slowing down. That was, which I had a 1.5 force, and I did not have a problem with that. I had the, like I showed a little while ago, I had the countershaft, which also increased on my, decreased the speed and increased the torque. So therefore, the riser blocks was one of the best upgrades I did, both to my Atlas and to the Delta. So I'm maintaining that. And of course, if I can do outboard, then it will give you other ranges that I haven't even explored that. So the next thing I really need to do is not mount the motor solid. I want to be able to open this up, check the wiring diagram, and get my first set of wires. Oops, sorry. Get my first set of wires that will come out of here into the VFD. The power from the wall, when you supplying power to this motor, the power to this motor is being supplied by this VFD. It will come out from these connectors directly to the motor. The power from your wall or your receptacle will come into this, and from here it will be the plug-in to your wall. Whether if it's a plug-in, direct wire, whatever you do. What this does is it takes single phase, which is what we have in US on a residential thing. We have single phase. Means even if it's 220, it's still single phase. It takes those two leads, which single phase are two hots and a neutral. It takes those two phases and electronically it converts it over and feeds out a three-phase. You can only get variable speed on a motor if it's a DC motor or a three-phase motor. Technically, you're not supposed to reduce the speed with any type of mechanism on a single-phase motor because that motor is designed only to run at that rated speed of 60 Hertz. At three-phase, you can run a motor from anywhere from 0 Hertz to 100 Hertz or 150 Hertz. And US uses a 60 Hertz system. Some European countries use 50 Hertz. That's the standard to bring up the speed of a motor to its full capacity. When it reaches that Hertz, the full Hertz, that is the speed that the motor is actually designed for. So this motor, for instance, is a 60 Hertz. Its full speed is 60 Hertz, which means that at 60 Hertz it will be running at 17 1745 RPMs. So if I double that up and I go to, let's say, 120 hertz, this motor would be running at 3490 RPMs. That's how fast this motor would be running. If I have it at half, 30 hertz, then this motor will be running at half of the 1700 RPMs, and that's how you get all the variables. But the lower I go on the hertz, the less torque. It will respond to the RPMs that I got on the motor, but the lower I go on the hertz, even though it says that it has a boost torque and all that stuff, you're still going to lose torque at the low end, unless you are able to reduce on the headstock to even a bigger gear, or on the motor end to even a smaller pulley. When I said gear, but I meant pulley. The large pulley on your headstock, that's the low range speed. That means that on the motor, you're on the smallest of the pulleys. Only if you can get something even smaller on a pulley, and we know that you're not going to be able to change the one on a headstock because you're in between the headstock. But only if you can get something even smaller on a pulley, then can you get higher torque than what you got right now. But probably not going to go that route. You're going to go with the standard of what you already have that's existing. 3-step, 4-step, whatever you got. It has 3 or 4 different ranges. Your headstock has 3 or 4 different matching ranges, and you work with that, and all you're doing is putting a motor that will go from 0 to whatever it is that you want it to do. So this is my motor cavity. That's where the motor is going to go, and it has a mounting plate that is adjustable to keep the constant pressure of the belt. And I've never had that before, but this actually makes it easy if you do some sort of a bracket, some sort of a lever. You can put it underneath here, making it very easy for you to change your belt speeds, or you can just jump it. So this is a convenience that I did not have in the past. So like I said, I got to get the wiring. The next step really is to get the wires off my motor long enough for them to come in to wherever my situation is where I'm placing things, but get the wires long enough to come up to, or from the wall will come into the hookup on this. From this it will go back to the motor, and from these smaller ones on the top I'll have to look it up and check exactly what, but these are for external commands, like your variable speed dial if you don't want to be using this, or using the push buttons, the on, the off, and the forward reverse toggle switch, the tachometer instead of this little readout over here. You can do it all from this, or you can do it from an external. I like doing the external rather than going through the parameters of changing the reverse. It's easy enough, but still you have to go to this and hit multiple functions, not just one. You got to go to that function, change the parameters on it, and the motor would reverse. You want to go forward again, you'd go back into this, to that function, change the function number that shows up on the dial, change it to, let's say, a 000, then the motor would go back again in the opposite direction. I like the idea of a toggle switch, forward, reverse, off in the center. That's what I use on my Atlas. This unit, I'd love to set it here because I already have something here. So what I'm going to do here is put my overrides for all of this on this area, and put this VFD setup where I will have this, just this faceplate showing up right in this front. I don't like the idea that I have to have these wires coming up over here, but I also want to be able to see what's going on with the VFD. So that's why I'm looking at possibly cutting that. I don't need to. I could have it all physically mounted inside. All I need is this to be protected from the majority of chips going in there, because this has a computer fan that keeps it cool. So I could mount it in the back, facing forward like that. It's away from my belts and everything else. I could very well do that. The back of my cabinet has breather flaps, but I don't think that's what at least I don't think that's what I'm going to do. It doesn't mean that's not what I'm going to do. I hate cutting things. I hate making changes. I hate making changes to a tool that was designed one specific way, that it takes it completely away from what its original design was. And that goes from cars to anything else. If I make a change to something, I still want to be able to say, I can go back to its original status. It's a me thing. It's not that it's better or not. But you know, it goes without saying. It's the same thing with this cabinet. I almost hate to modify it to a point that it's not how it was designed or not what it was intended to do. I like my changes to satisfy what I needed to do, but not completely redesign it, if that makes any sense. So I will see exactly how I want to tackle this, and I am not so sure if I definitely need to see this. I don't. I will show you what I decide to do one way or the other. So next step is the wiring, and I'll make sure that I record that.